After a very busy weekend, bring in Senator Mike Crapo. He, of course, is a Republican from Idaho and a member of the influential Gang of Six. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
What do you think of the deal?
Well, it's obviously not the kind that I would like to have seen, but it's the kind that we could get right now, and it actually was a very powerful reversal of what's happening in Washington, and so I think that it's going to pass with significant support. Ultimately, it'll be about a $3 trillion deal. I think that the enforcement mechanisms that were put in are going to work, and that means that it can really be counted as a true $3 trillion deal. And that kind of a step is the kind of thing that we really needed to have at this point.
I've learned to enjoy your optimism, Senator. It's nice to have you on the program again. You skated over the fact that you thought that it would pass. Some people are saying that this is House Speaker Boehner's toughest period now ever in the next few hours as he tries to get the deal that he's done through the House. I mean, how many of those? Do you think he'll get half of the Republicans to support it? Those aren't the noises that we're kind of hearing.
Yes, I actually do think that he will get well more than half of the Republicans to support it. But it's also true that if the Democrats don't come in and support this, it will not pass in the House. This is going to require a healthy number of Democrat votes as well as Republican votes. But I would estimate that Speaker Boehner should be able to produce at least 150 in his caucus to support this plan.
Are you able to help us on the issue that came up earlier in the program that the Speaker appears to be saying that the new super committee that's formed will not be able to raise additional revenues or taxes? What's your view of that? Because that is a stumbling point for some of the Democrats, which you just mentioned.
Well, frankly, the committee has the freedom to do whatever it needs and build a huge plan. So theoretically, it could consider taxes, but I don't think there's a realistic chance at all that the committee would raise taxes. First of all, that is the wrong thing to be doing right now for our fiscal policy, but that does not mean that they wouldn't approach some very powerful pro-growth tax reform, the kind which, for example, the Gang of Six put forward, which would actually reduce tax rates dramatically, flatten out the code, and then generate additional revenue for deficit reduction by growing the economy. One of the key things we've got to do right now is to grow the economy rather than simply focus on one side of the equation.
Senator, Journal op-ed page today talks about some of the Tea Party members and says, we'll be charitable and assume they've climbed so far out on the political ledge they don't know how to climb back without admitting they were wrong. Do you think the deal as it stands allows them to say, look, we did change the parameters of the debate, we made our point, we held our ground, and won't continue to hold default as a potential hostage?
Well, I do believe that the deal vindicates the members of the Tea Party, the hardcore battlers, hawks, if you will, who were trying to do everything they could to change the dynamic in America. And in fact, this deal shows that they won. It's not as big a victory as one might have hoped for, but it truly is a reversal of American fiscal policy from the spiraling out of control spending sprees to a debate over how much will we reduce our deficits. And I think that they can seriously take a lot of the credit for having helped to change that, make that reversal in American fiscal policy.
But how is it a reversal when you don't address entitlements directly, or you pass it off to some committee that may or may not work?
Well, very good question. And like I said earlier, I believe the committee will work, and it has enforcement mechanisms in place. And so, like I said, it's not a complete victory, and this is not the kind of grand bargain plan that America really needs. This committee needs to deliver. And frankly, even if this committee delivers a major $4 trillion plus plan, we're going to need to move forward after that to really get out of the debt hole that we have built for ourselves to do another major plan within the next year or two. So there's more work to be done, absolutely. But this is a major change in the debate in Washington, D.C., and I think it happened because of those who hung in there and insisted that we have this kind of reform.
Senator Crapo, it's Jason Trennert. I was wondering specifically what you think about the potential or the likelihood of a tax cut on repatriated profits. There is a lot of talk on Wall Street that we have corporate coffers are filled with $2 trillion in cash. A lot of that is overseas. President Bush did that to, I think, pretty good effect to stimulate capital spending. This time, the question is whether it could be used to actually stimulate employment. What do you think the chances of that are once, let's say, Congress comes back from vacation in a month?
Well, I hope the chances are very good. I very strongly support a repatriation, and I think that the sooner we get at it, the better for our country and capital formation in America. I know that it's been a part of the debate. Some of those on the other side of the aisle think that it is not fair because they think that those dollars will have to be taxed when they come back, and they think that the corporations that are holding these dollars are going to be forced to bring them back to the U.S. You and I both know that's not true. What we need to do is to have a repatriation where we bring back these dollars into the United States and get them working to generate jobs. I think that debate is one that has at least a decent chance of bringing a positive solution if we can keep engaged with it.
But so you don't know if this money comes back that it's actually going to be used to create jobs. It's far more likely to go in share buybacks or dividends straight into the back pockets of people who at the present time are saving at quite a high rate.
Undoubtedly, if most of it goes into dividends, that would be different than if it went into some kind of capital investment. But even if it comes back through the form of dividends, I think that's a positive influence in our economy. And I personally think that we need to stop keeping these corporate dollars offshore and get them back into our economy one way or the other.
But isn't it even more likely than that actually corporate treasurers will hoard the cash? And that's what we're seeing at the moment. A huge amount of hoarding for fear of where we're going with economic growth.
You're right, and that's one of the reasons I said earlier that one of the key parts of what we must do, and hopefully this committee will get into it, if not Congress will have to get into it, is to focus on a pro-growth package, the kind of tax reform, hopefully regulatory reform, and some positive developments in energy policy and trade policy that will help us to convince those who are sitting on the sidelines with their cash right now that it's time to get serious and get engaged, and that they can profitably do so.
Senator, good to talk to you again. By the way, we're told the majority leader is saying that the Senate will hold a vote sometime today, so that will clear up at least half of that uncertainty. Senator, we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
Mike Crapo of Idaho.